Some of the strongest decisions you'll ever make won't come with noise. No anger, no explanation. Just silence and the courage to walk away from what drains your soul. Walking away silently isn't a weakness, it's restraint. It's the moment you stop trying to be understood by everyone and start protecting what matters most. Your energy, your peace, your mind. You don't announce it, you don't defend it. You stop showing up where your soul no longer feels safe. And that silence, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. The Stoics understood this deeply. Real strength was never about confrontation or proving a point. It was about control. Control over your reactions, control over where you place your attention, control over what you allow to shape your inner world. Letting go without drama is not avoidance. It's a healthy approach. It's a healthy approach. It's discipline. In this video, you'll discover 9 things you must quietly eliminate from your life. Not with anger, not with chaos, but with clarity. These are the hidden drains on your energy, your focus, and your self-respect. Remove them silently, and you don't just feel lighter, you become stronger. Welcome to Stoic Philosophy Daily, where your story matters. Share your experience, your silent power move, or your biggest struggle below. Every comment you leave is a gift. Here, your voice matters. We read with care, answer with heart, and treat your journey as part of our own. This is more than a channel, it's a circle of strength. If you're ready to stop explaining yourself and start evolving, comment below, "My silence is my strength." Let's begin your quiet revolution. 1. Drop the mask, reclaim yourself. We all wear masks, some to fit in, some to survive. But at some point, the mask becomes heavier than the truth. You start to feel it in your body. The fake laugh that comes a second too late. The nod you give while something inside you quietly resists. The silence you choose, not because you agree, but because you're tired of explaining. It drains you slowly, like carrying a weight you were never meant to hold for this long. And you wonder why peace feels so far away. You weren't born to perform. You weren't built to be someone else's version of acceptable. Yet over time, we learn that approval feels safer than honesty. So we adapt. We soften our edges, we trim our words. We turn ourselves into something easier to digest. At school, at home, in relationships, until the act becomes automatic, until one day, the mask feels so familiar that taking it off feels risky, almost wrong. This is the quiet damage of people-pleasing. You start measuring every sentence before you speak. You scan faces for reactions. You rehearse conversations in your head long after they end. Being liked becomes a job, and the cost is subtle but brutal. The more approval you get, the less seen you feel, because being accepted for a mask doesn't nourish you, it starves you. The Stoics taught us, peace begins when our thoughts, words, and actions align. Epictetus said, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. It's not about being reckless, it's about choosing truth, even if it means being misunderstood, because losing approval is nothing compared to losing yourself. Try this. For 1 week, stop saying yes when your body quietly says no. Notice the moment your stomach tightens, your chest contracts, and your energy drops after you agree to keep the peace. That sensation is not random. It's your internal compass pushing back against the performance. Pause and ask yourself, if I stopped filtering my truth, who might I disappoint? And who might I finally become? The guilt will surface first. It always does. Then something else follows. Relief, lightness, a growing sense of self-respect that doesn't need permission. Dropping the mask won't make you harsh, it makes you honest. It gives your buried voice space to return. At first, it feels awkward, even selfish, but that discomfort, it's just you learning to belong to yourself again. At Stoic Daily, we believe peace begins where performance ends. Comment below, I dropped the mask. Who are you when you no longer live for applause but for alignment? 2. End the excuse called tomorrow. It never shouts, it never threatens, it just whispers, not now, and you listen, again and again. Tomorrow is the most seductive lie you'll ever believe. It sounds gentle, harmless, even wise, but behind that soft voice is the slow erosion of your life. Not by failure, not by rejection, but by hesitation. Quiet, polite hesitation that convinces you to wait. One more day, one more reason, one more excuse. Waiting feels safe because it gives you the illusion of control. Like standing at the edge of a cold pool, convincing yourself you'll jump once the water feels warmer. However, the truth is that you never adapt by standing still. You adapt by entering. The dreams you swore you'd pursue get buried under perfectly reasonable delays. The change you said you'd make gets lost in mental rehearsals. The text you were going to send becomes a silent wait. The conversation you feared becomes a closed door. Seneca warned us, while we are postponing, life speeds by. The Stoics recognized that perfection is an illusion. Progress doesn't begin when everything is ready. It starts when you're brave enough to move, even though you're still afraid. Try this. Take the smallest action you've been avoiding, not the grand plan. Just the first brick, 5 push-ups, 1 page, 1 honest message. Watch how your body reacts. Notice the fear at first, then the shift, as if something heavy unclenched inside you. That's momentum. That's life returning. Don't underestimate it, because once you move, clarity follows. Then confidence, then rhythm. Soon, you stop resenting effort. You stop fearing effort. You start respecting yourself again. So ask yourself, what have you delayed that actually matters? And who could you become if you stopped treating your desire like a someday event? At Stoic Daily, we believe every time you postpone, you rehearse your own regret. Action, not thought, is what breaks the pattern. Comment below, I choose today. Let us know. What will you begin now, not later? 3. End emotional begging. Emotional begging doesn't always look like kneeling or pleading. Sometimes it's the silent shrinking of your voice, the quiet nod you give when your soul wants to scream, the invisible hope that if you provide a little more, they'll finally stay. You reach, you adjust, you wait, and in the end, you're left in a room echoing with a silence you never chose, only inherited after pouring your heart into someone who never intended to hold it. The hunger to be enough leads many into emotional debt. You start trading pieces of your self-worth for brief flashes of connection. You smile through hurt, lower your standards, and tolerate crumbs, calling it love. This isn't affection, it's approval in disguise. And approval, when begged for, always costs more than it's worth. The Stoics reminded us, love does not require performance. Epictetus taught that only the educated are free. Emotional freedom begins when you no longer tie your value to how much someone responds to your pain. True love meets you, sees you, and stays. It doesn't test, dangle, or disappear. Try this. Think of the person or space where you feel most unseen. What version of you shows up there? The filtered one? The one that over-explains, over-gives, stays quiet to keep the peace? Now imagine standing in that space, but without the performance. No masks, no filters, just your truth. Feels scary. That's the detox. That's where healing begins. As Carl Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Because when you do, you stop begging others to validate you. You walk away from conversations where you once had to earn your place. You stop chasing closure. You start building boundaries. And yes, it feels like mourning at first, like losing something familiar. But what you're really doing is reclaiming the space you used to give away, thought by thought, gesture by gesture. Emotional begging is a slow erosion of identity. But silence, the kind you choose, can become a fortress, a sacred refusal to beg for what should be given freely. At Stoic Daily, we believe your peace begins where you stop performing for love. Comment below, no more begging. What truth are you finally ready to stop apologizing for? 4. Quietly release the grudge. Silent grudges are like carrying coals in your bare hands, hoping the other person will feel the heat. But the only one burning is you. Holding on feels like protection, like if you stay guarded, they can't hurt you again. But in truth, resentment doesn't create distance. It builds a prison. And the door, you're the one holding it shut from the inside. Anger feels like power until it becomes your identity. You start reacting from the wound, not from the moment. You trust less, you speak less. You begin to live with a filter of suspicion, flinching at kindness because you've learned to expect pain. What you call strength is just your scar tissue talking. And the wound, often it's not from one moment, but from everything you never said. The betrayal you brushed off. The apology you waited for but never got. The grudge builds not from what happened, but from what never got processed. It's the heavy silence that clings long after the fight is over. Seneca warned, anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself from being owned by something that already ended. Try this. Think of one person whose name still triggers tension. One memory that plays on loop. Ask yourself honestly, how much peace has it stolen from you? What would it feel like if that memory no longer had the power to twist your stomach? Imagine waking up without the weight of it. No dramatic closure, no final conversation, just a quiet internal release. You are not obligated to carry it. Healing doesn't mean you invite them back. It means you stop renting that space in your nervous system. You stop bleeding from a wound they forgot. You stop defining your boundaries by their absence. Real healing is quiet, strong, and internal. It doesn't always come with fireworks, but you'll know it's real when their name feels like history, not a trigger. At Stoic Daily, we believe peace isn't earned from others. It's a decision you make within. Comment below, I choose to release. What grudge have you outgrown? What part of your story is ready to be let go? 5. Let go of the finish line fantasy. You've been lied to, quietly, constantly, that happiness is a destination, that one day when you earn enough, look good enough, and become successful enough, then you'll be whole. So you run, you grind, you scroll and compare, you hang your piece on a horizon that keeps moving further every time you get close. The trap isn't that you're chasing something bad, it's what you were told the chase would end. But the line always shifts from getting the grade to getting the job, to getting the house, to keeping them there. And suddenly, you're running a race with no finish line. That's how you wake up one day with everything you thought you needed and still feel empty. Joy was never in the next achievement. It was in how you carried yourself through the storm. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who they applaud, not who they expect, but who you are underneath the noise." And yet, the noise is addictive. The image of perfection is intoxicating because chasing lets you avoid being still. But stillness is where you hear yourself. And if that voice is always harsh, always pushing you harder, no external prize will ever silence it. Try this. Pause. Right now. Take one slow breath. Ask, what am I waiting for to feel joy? Not in 5 years, not after the promotion. Right now, with your real life. your imperfect, in-progress, gloriously human life. Can you enjoy your morning coffee without scrolling through your phone? Can you walk without racing your thoughts? These moments aren't filler. They are the actual show. The Stoics didn't chase happiness. They practiced it in presence, in values, in inner freedom. And that's the shift. You stop asking when I will be happy and start asking how I can build peace today. You stop waiting for the vacation and start noticing the breath. You stop outsourcing your worth to strangers online. You return to yourself, to what's true. And in that return, you find something better than a finish line. You find peace that doesn't need a prize, a joy that doesn't require a witness, a life that doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. At Stoic Daily, we believe happiness isn't out there waiting for you. It's here, staying with you. Comment below. What's one small ritual that brings you joy? What would change if you stopped chasing and started choosing right now? 6. Stop explaining, start living. There's a kind of exhaustion no sleep can fix. The exhaustion of constantly explaining yourself. Every choice, every boundary, every change. You dress your truth in polite language. You sugarcoat your pain into something easier for others to digest. But deep down, you know your life is not a courtroom, and you are not on trial. The urge to explain is often a symptom of an old wound, stemming from the belief that one's worth depends on being understood. So you rehearse responses in your mind. You edit your truth before anyone even asks. You defend decisions that never needed defending, until one day you realize silence isn't weakness. It's a decision, a boundary, a form of peace that doesn't need permission. Marcus Aurelius said it best, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. You don't owe anyone a full narrative to prove you've grown. Growth doesn't always come with a press release. Healing doesn't need a highlight reel. Try this. The next time someone demands an explanation you don't feel safe giving, pause. Breathe. Say this instead, this is my choice. Or, I'm not comfortable explaining that. And let the silence hold the line. Notice how your body feels when you no longer contort to fit someone else's comfort. That discomfort you feel, that's your self-respect stretching its limbs for the first time. You are not distant for being private. You are not selfish for choosing peace. The people who love you won't need the whole backstory. They'll feel the truth in your presence. They'll honor your decisions, even if they don't fully understand them. And those who demand more than that? We were never seeking understanding. They were seeking control. At Stoic Daily, we believe real power doesn't shout. It stands still. Comment below. What's one thing you no longer owe anyone an explanation for? Let your silence speak what words never could. 7. Silence the inner critic. There's a voice inside you that speaks more often than anyone else. You've heard it for so long that you stopped questioning it. It tells you you're behind, that you should be further along, that everyone else seems to be moving faster while you're struggling to keep up. And when you're tired or overwhelmed, that voice gets sharper, harsher, more convincing. The danger isn't that the voice exists. It's that you mistake it for truth. You assume it must be right because it's familiar. But that voice isn't wisdom. It's conditioning. A habit formed under pressure, comparison, and unrealistic expectations. A bully disguised as discipline. Here's what rarely gets acknowledged. You are not lazy. You are overloaded. You are carrying more than people see. You wake up with heaviness in your chest and still show up. Still try. Still push forward, even as your inner dialogue keeps tearing you down. That isn't a weakness, that's endurance. Growth shifts the moment. Judgment turns into curiosity. Not what's wrong with me, but what do I need right now? Not why can't I do better, What's getting in my way? When you change the question, your nervous system softens. You stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. Carl Jung said it clearly, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And what you choose includes the voice you rehearse in your mind every day. If your inner language is always blame and attack, no achievement will ever feel like enough. You'll reach milestones and still hear, "You could have done more." Try this. The next time that voice says, "You're so far behind," pause and respond with truth. "I'm doing the best I can with what I have." When it says, "You always mess this up," answer, "This is a pattern I can learn to change." Notice the shift, not fake positivity, honesty, compassion grounded in reality. This is where real discipline is, born not from fear of failure, but from care. Discipline built on shame always cracks. Discipline built on understanding lasts. You begin to show up for yourself, not because you're afraid of falling behind, but because you believe you're worth supporting. At Stoic Daily, we believe the most important relationship you'll ever master is the one with your own mind. Comment below, "I choose to speak with strength." What's one sentence you're ready to stop saying to yourself? 8. Release the need to be right. A quiet tension arises when you feel the need always to be right. It shows up in your body before your words, the tight jaw, the chest that stiffens the moment someone challenges you, the reflex to defend yourself even when no one is attacking, as if letting a point pass means losing something essential about who you are. At first, it feels like strength. You tell yourself you're standing up for the truth, but most of the time, what you're really protecting isn't the truth, it's identity, the version of yourself that cannot be questioned, corrected, or seen as incomplete, and the cost of that armor is high. You leave conversations mentally exhausted. Your mind keeps replaying the exchange. Your nervous system stays activated long after the moment has passed. And for what? A temporary sense of winning that fades as soon as the silence returns. The need to be right doesn't always come from arrogance. Often it grows from fear. Fear of being dismissed. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear that being wrong means being less capable, less intelligent, less valuable. But disagreement is not a threat to your worth. Being wrong does not erase who you are. It only reminds you that you are human. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." If every disagreement feels personal, if every challenge tightens your chest, the battle may not be with them. It may be with an old wound that one learned long ago, that safety comes from being correct, prepared, and unshakable. But you are no longer in that chapter. You can be wrong now and still be safe. Try this. The next time you feel the urge to correct someone, pause before you speak. Notice the sensation in your body. Ask yourself, am I seeking clarity or am I seeking control? Then choose deliberately. Let one comment pass without defense. Feel the discomfort. Then notice what follows. The relief, the space, the quiet return of your breath. That is what peace feels like when ego loosens its grip. When you stop needing to be right, you stop explaining yourself to the point of exhaustion. You stop carrying arguments home with you. You begin choosing alignment over applause, presence over pride. You still hold your values. You still speak when it matters, but you do so with calm hands, not clenched fists. At Stoic Daily, we believe the goal is not to win every argument. The goal is to be free. Comment below, "I choose peace over being right." Where could letting go give you your energy back? 9. The fear of starting over. Starting over doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've grown too big for a life that no longer fits. Like a snake shedding its old skin, you're not losing yourself. You're making space for who you were meant to become. But that process terrifies most people. We're taught to finish what we start, to be consistent, to not quit. So when something begins to feel wrong, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even a version of ourselves, we tighten our grip instead of letting go. We stay, not because it serves us, but because starting over feels like jumping without a net. The truth? It's not a weakness, it's wisdom. Seneca said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that where you are is no longer where you belong. Try this. Ask yourself, if I weren't afraid, what would I walk away from today? The mind will resist. It will whisper, "You've come too far." It's too late. You've already invested so much. But those are chains made of sunk cost and fear, not clarity. Here's the truth. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from wisdom. Every misstep, every lesson, every scar becomes fuel. And when you reset, not out of fear, but out of alignment, your whole life begins to shift. It doesn't need to be dramatic. Sometimes starting over means choosing peace over pressure, turning down what no longer serves you, daring to believe that you're allowed to dream again. Most people stay stuck not because they're broken, but because they're scared of becoming a beginner again. But what if being a beginner is where freedom begins? At Stoic Daily, we believe peace isn't something you stumble into. It's something you choose, sometimes quietly, sometimes boldly, always intentionally. Your quiet rebirth begins here. They chose the discomfort of beginning over the numbness of staying, and that made all the difference. Because the moment you leave behind a version of yourself that no longer fits, something extraordinary begins. You stop just surviving and start becoming. Not someone brand new, but someone more truthful, more aligned, more alive. The road ahead won't always be clear. Your hands might shake, your voice may tremble. But still, you go because the courage to begin is greater than the fear of staying. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." So let today be the line you draw, the quiet, powerful moment you choose alignment over approval, peace over performance, and rebirth over repetition. And when doubt creeps in, don't argue with it. Just keep moving, not to impress, not to prove, but to honor the life you were meant to live. Welcome to Stoic Philosophy Daily. Share one thing you're grateful for below. Your voice might be the reminder someone else needs today. This is your invitation, not to escape who you are, but to return to it, fully and without apology. If this message resonates with your current season of growth, hit subscribe and join us as we walk into the next chapter. One step, one breath, one decision at a time.
If you're seeking more, discover the full path on my channel, Stoic Philosophy Daily.